Guys, this video is brought to you by our friends at Lucy. Lucy was founded by Caltech scientists on a mission to reduce tobacco-related harm with a tobacco alternative that doesn't suck. As former smokers dissatisfied with the traditional nicotine options, they knew there had to be a better way. For adult tobacco users, it was a big challenge, but they did it with their innovative nicotine gum. With 4 milligrams of nicotine in each piece, you can get a dose anywhere, anytime. I encourage my friends who smoke to choose Lucy gum over cigarettes or vapes for all the obvious reasons. As you know, nicotine is addictive, so use discretion. Lucy's gum comes in 3 delicious flavors: wintergreen, cinnamon, and pomegranate. Visit lucy.co. Use the promo code Chael20. That's going to save you 20% off your entire order. That's lucy.co. lucy.co, or click on the link in the description. Guys, remember, nicotine is addictive, so use discretion. Coach Kavanaugh weighed in on... By the way, do you guys ever follow Coach Kavanaugh? I suggest you do it on Twitter, Instagram. Possibly the coolest guy in MMA. Like, you're just never going to get any crap from him. When he had the world eating out of his hand because he's training the biggest, he was never a dick. And if things don't go his way, he's never down in the dumps. He's very steady, which is what you need from a coach. I thought I should just give him that compliment. I mean, in all fairness, Kavanaugh is just a really cool guy. But listen to what he said about Conor and really follow the words, because it will prove my point of how cool this guy is. So, okay. Kavanaugh says, Conor is already harassing everybody about getting the trilogy fight with Poirier. I don't think Dustin's against it, and hopefully we can do it this summer. Hold the thought. The best thing he said there was simply, I don't think Dustin's against it. Many other coaches, managers, and of course the fighters are going to come out and they're going to say something nasty at Dustin. Coach Kavanaugh was he said, I don't think he's against it. I mean, in all fairness, you got to really hold those words. That's a proper call out, particularly when you're not calling a guy out. You're actually asking him to do something. And there's nothing you're hiding if you're Conor. Hey, dude, my life in the bubble I live in just got thrown off course. And the only thing to straighten that course out is if I can get back in there. Oh, and by the way, beat you. I don't just want to compete with you. I don't want to be a nice guy like I was. I want to beat you. You just took everything from me. I want to take it back. Will you sit down at the table and can we deal these cards? I mean, it's one of those things. So for Kavanaugh to simply say, very simply say, I don't think Poirier is against it. That is the perfect way to go about this, particularly when it is you that want something. I mean, I really want to give credence to that. Because now let's look a little bit further, all right? Who, what, when, why, where. If you don't have who, what, when, why, where, you do not have a story. He included the win, and the win is extremely important, which is this summer. I'm gonna call summer July. That's for me. But that is typically International Fight Week. It is typically a mega fight, and this trilogy most certainly is. Also very wise of Conor to quickly, before he even left the octagon on Saturday night, declare for the world and remind them we are now 1-1. And by the way, my 1 came a little bit easier and a little bit faster than your 1. I mean, not for nothing, but you have to start to plant and sow the seeds of the story. Relevant. And I'm with Coach Kavanaugh. I haven't talked to Dustin yet. I will speak to him. I figure his phone's blowing up, right? I didn't want to be that guy, one of those guys. I don't think he's against it. He beat Conor. Why would he not want to go out and do that again? I'm going to assume in his largest payday ever. That whole red panty night, you draw, that's a very real thing. I would assume that he would like to do that again. The one and only problem that I have speaking to you guys about a trilogy or even predicting the trilogy for you, the only problem that I have, which is a pretty small one, I think we can get around it. My problem is Dustin's next fight's got to be for the belt. Which means if he's fighting Conor, that has to be a title fight. So now you have Dustin, who has earned a title shot, against Conor, who just got cleaned up prior to the title fight. Now, this is coming from a guy who got a world title fight after just getting cleaned up. I mean, you can do these things. I fought John Jones right after I fought Anderson Silva. These things can happen, but you're getting this from a guy that there's ways this has to be done. And I think Conor, who has a commodity aside from the punches and kicks, and Conor, who is the only fighter in this space who has a commodity aside from the performance, needs to go back into Conor mode. I feel like some of that started at the press conference, and it wasn't his doing. Conor showed up to that press conference because that is a procedural requirement, and only a scumbag wouldn't do it. If you have to hang your head as a way of giving the nod to the guy who won, you have to do that. You ever seen the medal stand at the Olympics? You know how bad it hurts that guy that's got the silver medal. You know how bad he's hurting, but he stands there. He stands there and lets the other guy get his due. It's sport. I really appreciate that Conor did that. But at the press conference, that he showed up to be a gentleman, and for no other reason. He did not want to be there. That hurt. Somebody read to him a tweet that Khabib put out. And that is where Conor's face changed, and he went back into Conor. That is where the real Conor started to come out. And I liked it. I'm complimenting it. But it pissed him off badly. And Khabib's tweet was not all that deep. Like, the knife that went in was not all that deep. He simply said, this is what you, I'm paraphrasing, I can't remember the exact words, but this is what you get when you leave your team and you go to Portugal. And I will agree with Khabib, that was one very bizarre part of this story. I remember reading that Conor went to Portugal, and I remember sitting there going, Portugal? What's in Portugal? I don't know what fighter on the roster, Bellator or UFC, is from Portugal. And I'm sure you guys can answer that. I don't know who that person is. I don't know what coach or gym. I'll even look at the amateurs. Wrestling in the Olympic Games, boxing in the Olympic Games, judo in the Olympic Games, taekwondo in the Olympic Games. Portugal is represented in all of those. I don't know of a medalist ever. And any one of, I'm only suggesting for you that that's a Portugal. Portugal for MM. What are you doing? Conor's house geographically is 20 minutes from the gym in Ireland. It's 20 minutes from Straight Blast Gym. I did think Portugal was weird too. I never understood the Portugal side of it. So for Khabib to bring that to him as a way of saying you left what got you there and walked away, which was Conor's big problem to take you back with TJ Dillashaw. You guys remember that story on The Ultimate Fighter and all the heat and beef that is TJ Dillashaw versus Alpha Male, or TJ Dillashaw specifically against Uriah Faber. The genesis of that all came from Conor. None of it was said by Uriah. Uriah Faber never once had a problem with what TJ was doing. That all came from Conor, who went as far as to call TJ a snake in the grass. Look at what you did, you snake. These are the guys that made you, and now you've run off to Colorado with Dwayne. You're a snake and you can't be trusted. I don't know the Conor and the Portugal story. So don't take my words for any more than what my words are, which, to be clear, I don't know the Portugal story. I did think it was bizarre that he went off to Portugal. I have never been offered an explanation by anybody as to what was there or why he went, and I'm with Khabib. I cannot imagine that he packed up his own team and his own trainers and went to Portugal. Why would you possibly do that when you're already 20 minutes away from him? We're always going to judge a guy after his performance when he does not get the result that he wants. Okay. I am not even speaking to you about Portugal had Conor won. I'm not going to come to you and tell you he did everything right. He found this great trainer in Portugal. Look at what a great job he did. I'm going to ignore it. I'm only going to bring it up to be a dick when things don't go his way. So definitely take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But to make believe anything less than Conor was slow and rusty because he had been inactive, guys, he's telling the truth. That's exactly what happened. And Conor's not going to be the last to do it. Jon Jones is coming next. And it's not going to be any more Jon's fault than it was Conor's fault. But there is one difference, which is Jon took his ball and went home, and Conor said, someone give me a fight. They didn't give him one. So if you do want to feel a little bit of compassion towards somebody, and those are your two, Jon Jones and Conor McGregor, walk similar paths in terms of how much they sat out and how active they were. You're going to be more sympathetic to Conor because he's the one that says, somebody put me in. What in the hell have I done wrong? You want me to fight Khabib? Khabib's not, I want to fight somebody else. Somebody put me in. I bring that to you because it's different, and you are going to see this with Jon Jones, who is so goddamn good, he might still win. Not only are you going to see this with John, you're seeing it right now. Reyes beat him. One judge thought Santos beat him. You're seeing it right now. That as people, we don't get better at something by not doing it. And there's an old expression, but don't ever forget it because it's very true. And this is a reminder. If you chase two rabbits, you will catch neither. And one thing with Conor McGregor is he is spread very thin. He is so wildly talented at what he does, but now he's off in the whiskey. And he's doing commercials that are airing during the Super Bowl. That was a year ago. And he's getting endorsements with clubs and spots. It's one of these. What do you do if you're Conor? Do you take your eye off of all of those things and stay laser focused so that you can achieve something that's very hard to do, which is being the best in the world at something? Or do you recognize that the whiskey doesn't work if I'm not doing this? I can't come and do the whiskey later. The whiskey only works because I'm hot right now. Oh, and by the way, the endorsements and some of these, they don't work unless they happen right now. I'm not in a commercial for the Super Bowl unless I do. I can't come back in 10 years and go, hey guys, remember me. It's just not the way sports work. So there's no part of me that is blaming or even judging Conor. I'm just reminding you of the expression. I mean, tie that in with another expression said by the great Orville Redenbacher, do one thing and do it better than anybody. It's a very real thing in life that many people face. I'm hot right now. And I'm very tempted to throw a whole bunch of things at the wall and see what sticks. The other side of the coin, if I can stay laser focused, I can get that one thing that I really care about to stick longer. But those are your options. Everybody has a window. And I do not believe that Conor's is behind him. Again, to reference the press conference, Conor was paying homage to those leg kicks. The calf kick specifically, but all of the legs kicks. And he went as far as to say that's a nasty, nasty weapon, and my leg was killed. His words. But then he went on to say, it is not as though I don't have the skills to adjust for that next time. I just couldn't do it now because he already killed my leg. I didn't know I needed to adjust until I no longer had the benefit of my lead leg, which in this case was Conor's right leg. And Conor's right. He's a very dynamic fighter. He could go out there and switch that stance a number of ways. He could go out there and at the end of combinations take one step to his left, which would take that power of the kick away, and Dustin never threw the kick except at the end of combinations. I mean, Conor is right that knowing what he knows now and going to making adjustments that he's dynamic enough, that's not something, again, to personalize that I could offer for you. I was not a very dynamic guy. I was going to get in your face and I was going to be grimy and I was going to use some toughness and some skill. And if that didn't work, I was going to come in second. Conor's not that way. He is very, very versatile. Is it enough to swing what we saw? That's a whole nother conversation. It's a whole nother conversation because in fairness, when you're looking at that fight and you're seeing some of the ailments of Conor, it was not a perfect fight by Poirier. Poirier made a lot of mistakes in that fight, and Poirier got baited a number of times, including speaking to Conor audibly and visibly during the contest. Poirier doesn't speak to his opponent. Conor led that thing. Conor led the press, gets on his knees, Poirier gets on his knees. Conor says something nice, Poirier says something. I mean, Conor big brothered this thing from Jump Street, which is likely not to happen again. Poirier is likely to come in and realize, hey, I'm the A side. There's a reason you're walking out there first and I'm walking out there second. Whoever walks out second is the star of the night. So I'm only bringing to you that, yes, Conor can make adjustments, but Poirier can too. Even in victory, Poirier is going to be able to go back and look at that and go, man, I took some shots. I ate that left hand a number of times and I dealt with it, but I ate it. I don't want to do that in the future. Poirier was on top. There was 0 ground and pound. There was 0 passing. There was 0 submission attempts. I don't think Poirier expected to be on top. That was a half-hearted takedown attempt at best, and it worked. These are not insults to Poirier. I'm being very critical of two of the best fighters in the world. But in fairness, Poirier is also going to learn from that fight, and Poirier is going to come back stronger next time too, would be my prediction. Are we going to get that fight? Yeah, most likely. How do we go and make that for the belt? And that's got to be for the belt. We just can't run Conor out there. We just can't put Poirier out there. We just can't do it and not put the belt up. So there's going to be a little marketing. There's going to be a little PR. There's a couple of things that you have to do. Some of you are going to resist the idea that Conor, off of a loss, is working into a world title fight. Make sure you see the other side of the coin, which is Poirier, who has done everything right. And many people, Joe Rogan included, as recently as this morning, have called Poirier the uncrowned champion. That sounds right to me. Poirier does deserve a title shot. So whoever his next opponent is, in my opinion, is going to be for the belt.
Uncle Chael, Uncle Chael, there's no bad guy like Uncle Chael. Never lost, not even a round, undefeated, undisputed. Oh yeah, here comes the bad guy. Uncle Chael, Uncle Chael, there's no bad guy like Uncle Chael. Never lost, not even a round, undefeated, undisputed. Oh yeah, here comes the bad guy. Uncle Chael, Uncle Chael, there's no bad guy like Uncle Chael. Never lost, not even a round, undefeated, undisputed. Oh yeah, here comes the bad guy, Uncle Chael.